can start. Yeah, we have already started. That's perfect. And I think you can let people in also. They can start coming in. Otherwise, I think it's already streaming on Wova. Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining in and also enduring through the day. We started quite a while back, around 9 hours back, and we started with some of the basics around data sharing, which started with the concept of what are data standards, and even before that, what is the value proposition for data sharing. Then we moved into data standards. We spoke about data collection methods, and over the day, there has been great participation, but we thought, even though there is an interest in data sharing, it's still a new space. And now in this session, we wanted to showcase some examples in which data is already being shared in agriculture, or there are pilots around data sharing. We have a panel that includes like Castle from Bangladesh. We have Satcho from India, we have Acre from Africa, and we have Digital Green. All of them have been pioneers in at least thinking about data sharing. And through this session, we want to inspire you. That's the objective, and show you that there are possibilities in the way data sharing is happening. Just to bring everyone on the same page again, the way we are defining data sharing in agriculture is basically a scenario where two or more value chain actors, which could include smallholder farmers, agree to share data between under a set of binding principles and agreements, with the intention that it will reduce the efforts related to data collection. It will also enable the reusing and recycling of existing pools of data. With this context, what we believe is that this reduced effort in data or related to data can be leveraged to provide benefits to smallholder farmers in the form of reduced service delivery costs. It can also enable pooling of data for better innovation. Private sector has more data to deal with and innovate. And thirdly, for the development sector stakeholders, there is a big possibility that data sharing can reduce the cost of monitoring and learning. So in this session, we'll see more about the operations related to data sharing and how it's being enabled. And with that, I'll first request Mustafa to present what they are doing. And like I mentioned, we have participation from several countries, and Mustafa is presenting from Bangladesh, and this is an innovation, a pilot that they're developing with respect to technology for data sharing. Over to you, Mustafa. You can feel free to share your screen and also present. Follow me. For some reason, we are seeing you on Spotlight, but that will have to be changed.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Srijit. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here as a speaker to talk about the importance of data sharing in the agricultural sector. Just again, a short introduction. My name is Mustafa Hamid. I'm a business consultant at Castle Partners, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, who we work closely with. We also have Abdul Rauf, Mr. Abdul Rauf, who is also from Syngenta Foundation, Syngenta Foundation, who will be here to answer any questions related to Syngenta Foundation, which works closely with smallholder farmers in developing countries. So with that, I will start my presentation. So again, just to give a very brief overview of what I will be talking about today. Firstly, I'd like to demonstrate the importance of data sharing to our main project that Syngenta Foundation and Castle Partners has collaborated on, which is the Soluta Ag app. I will talk a bit about that, and then how we're collaborating, and then where we see the need for data sharing in agriculture through our experience of working with smallholder farmers. How we're sharing data within the company, so intercompany data sharing, and then moving on to intra-company data sharing, where where we see scope of data sharing between multiple stakeholders in the ecosystem, and then talk about some of the initiative that we're currently planning, the data sharing initiative that we're currently planning, and some of the benefits and challenges that we see coming our way. So yeah, just first, very briefly talking about the Solida Ag app, which is a joint venture of Life Castle Partners and Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture. I will refer to who I will refer to as SFSA from this point. So Life Castle and SFSA has jointly developed this app, which serves as a last mile mobile light business management tool, or essentially a POS system for the Farmers Hub of SFSA. I will talk about the Farmers Hub model a bit in my next slide, but essentially it acts as a POS system which allows the Farmers Hub owners to record their transactions, the type of product that they're either buying or selling, who their customers are, and so on, and among other features such as advisory and marketplace and so on. So what is exactly the Farmers Hub? It is essentially a marketplace. It can be thought of as a marketplace which is connecting smallholder farmers with forward market pairs. So the Farmers Hub essentially is selling inputs to smallholder farmers, and then the produce is then bought from these farmers, and then they're connected to forward market pairs such as agribusinesses or traders and so on. And all of these activities are then recorded through the Solida Ag app, which also has a dashboard, a web dashboard as well. But the Farmers Hub are recording their transaction using this mobile app, and through this app now we have the financial activities of these Farmers Hubs, which can then be eventually used to forward to financial institutions for creating access to finance opportunities. So this is where the Solida Ag comes in, and our area of expertise comes in. And just talking about a bit on the collaboration and some of the milestones we have achieved so far. So just in 2022, so these are some numbers from 2022 alone. Solida Ag has been operational in 6 countries across Asia and Africa. Almost 1,000 Farmers Hubs who are using this app, with almost more than 360 transactions with smallholder farmers, more than 230 unique farmers served. The average revenue per hub per month, which is a metric that we track, is around just a little over $1,100, operating on average at a healthy profit margin of 27%. And in recent times, we've also incorporated recording phone number identification for farmers as well. And we've seen that the number of transactions with phone numbers, with missing phone numbers, has gone down in recent times, which allows us, allows us further farmer identification, which will be very important for data sharing, as I will talk later on. So yeah, again, just some of the milestones. And so now from our experience, where do we see the need for data sharing in agriculture, and why do we see the need for it? So firstly, we see 3 core areas where where we see that the data sharing will be beneficial. Firstly, data collection repetition. Obviously, since we have different stakeholders who are excuse me, we have different stakeholders who are operating in the ecosystem who might be collecting the same information from these smallholder farmers, which might make the whole process redundant and lead to duplicate information. Also, we see that obviously this is taking additional time and effort, and then smallholder farmers who might not be accustomed to data collection processes, they might be overwhelmed by these repetitive requests, right? Also, there's a factor of data quality that, whenever we have repetitive data being collected, they're more prone to human error, especially if it requires manual data entry. And we see that smallholder farmers may not even have mechanisms to either validate or verify this collected data if there in the future there's a change in their data or information. And obviously data governance and management as well. Different organizations may have different formats, even though they may be collecting the same data, they might store it in different formats and different structures. And there might be a lack of guidelines for either data management, data sharing, and so on. So there's definitely a need within the sector of proper data sharing protocols and best practices, which will greatly further the sector. Right? So talking about, again, just moving towards data flow, talking about data flow within the Farmers Hub ecosystem. So how does the data flow from the smallholder farmers back to the global management of Syngenta Foundation? So obviously the main input is the Solida Ag app, but then the data is used by the country teams of Syngenta Foundation for, let's say, inter-country benchmarking. And the country teams are closely coordinating with network managers who manage a network of 10 to almost 150 Farmers Hub. And they perform their own benchmarking of Farmers Hubs, provide capacity building to the Farmers Hub, and the Farmers Hub in place, they receive information on, let's say, price-related comparative intel, and they're also connected to other Farmers Hubs where they can communicate in a marketplace setting within the app, and they're the ones who are closely working with the farmers who are the customers and suppliers of these Farmers Hubs. And this data is, again, it flows back to the global management team to make strategic decisions. And then, a number of technological tools that we use. Obviously, we have our own web portal, but we use Power BI. The network managers as well, the country teams, they can access the web portal as well as the Power BI dashboards, and it's only the Farmers Hub who are providing the data input through the app. And we have, so within data sharing specifically within Syngenta Foundation or SFSA, within the company, we have different levels of functionality for each user group. So we have the country team who are closely working with, again, the network managers or the franchisees who are, again, managing the Farmers Hub owner, and each of them have specific data access for their respective network. So a network manager will only be able to access data for the Farmers Hubs that they manage. The country team will only be able to access data for the network managers, which is under their jurisdiction. And obviously the global management will have super admin access. So this is kind of how we share data within the organization. And how do we use this information? So just to give an example,
Mustafa, I hate to do this, but you'll have 3 more minutes. Sorry,
okay.
Sorry about
Yeah, no worries. So how have we been using the financial data that has been generated from the financial activities of the Farmers Hubs that we have collected over the past few years? So this is just an example where we did a financial modeling exercises for the Farmers Hub model using a data-driven approach where we developed a baseline Farmers Hub model, and then we estimated what would be a return on investment using, and this is using the data that has already been generated, right? So developing a Farmers Hub model which we can eventually pitch to financial institutions. So again, this is utilizing data in silos. We're just working with the data that we collect. Now we want to go one step further, right? So we have the financial data. How do we go one step further to incorporate other pieces of data? So just to show you an example over here on the picture on the right, we see a demonstration of a credit assessment, which also incorporates production risk and climate risk as well. So again, I'm just skimming over this part, but this is just an example of how we can add another dimension within the, let's say, the credit assessment or the credit scoring system, incorporating climate risk or production risk or farming, the farming practices of the farmers, the training that they've received. So all of this, so this is where we see the scope for data sharing, right? And this is exactly why we've initiated a pilot with Solidaridad and Rabobank. Solidaridad with its network of smallholder farmers and Rabobank acting as the financial institution partner, where we see that data sharing will greatly benefit the smallholder farmers in providing multiple opportunities. Okay? And how do we see this happening? What is the framework? So obviously Solidaridad with the non-financial data, Solida Ag with the financial data, and we'll also use public data sets such as climate, weather, and so on. For the Solidaridad and Solida databases, we will have, we plan to use custom APIs to access data that is only required. So depending on the nature of the assessment, the user will be making a request to the API to receive certain pieces of information from each of the respective databases in order to compile a smallholder farmer profile, which will then be used by Rabobank for the lending process, the credit scoring and dispersal and so on. So just to give an overview of how we envision the framework, the data sharing framework within this initiative. Now just coming to my last slide, I'd just like to summarize going forward, some of the benefits and challenges we see. So again, summarizing in 3 key areas. So where do we see the benefit of data sharing? A smallholder farmer profile obviously enable us better understanding of these smallholder farmers, which will allow targeted interventions, as well as evidence-based policy formulation. But some challenges, obviously, there's questions on data ownership and control. There's a factor of data security, and also an important factor as well, that how do we determine the unique farmer identifiers? So for example, if we say that we will use the phone number as a unique identifier, what if the phone number changes? How do we think about those sort of questions? So that's definitely one challenge. Access to finance and market opportunities. One benefit, obviously, improved credit scoring, and then we can have tailored financial products. So for example, flexible repayment options and appropriate loan amounts and so on. With the improved smallholder farmer profiles. Again, data privacy, since there's a question of financial data privacy and security will be a major factor, as well as data accuracy as well. Smallholder farmers might not always, one important factor again to consider within Solid Ag as well, that we have seen that data accuracy is a major issue. And lastly, just embedded services that obviously this data sharing initiative is expected to provide improved access to embedded services and enhance market linkages. But obviously, one challenge would be that the infrastructure will be limited, as well as again, data quality and standardization will be some challenges to tackle as well. So yeah, with that, I'd like to, in the interest of time, I'd like to end. I hope, this was able to demonstrate where we see data sharing will benefit the smallholder farmers in the agricultural sector, and possibly inspire more further initiatives in the future. So
thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mustafa. And yeah, sorry I had to interrupt, but
yeah.
I think this is a starting point, and I'll definitely be happy to connect anyone who has questions with you so that you can take it forward. But it's really good to see the frameworks that you have developed, and specifically talking about both intra-company and inter-company data sharing. I think that's really insightful. I'll just now want to ask Amit from Satshore to present, and this is mostly about reusing data for different purposes so that every stakeholder does not have to collect it themselves. Mustafa, I'll request you to stop sharing, and Amit, please take the floor. And once again, I'm going to interrupt maybe in 5 minutes so that we maintain time. And I hate to do it, but apologies, I have to do it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amit Salunke. I head sales in one of the verticals of Satchur called as Sage. And I'm very thankful uh, for uh, for us being invited over here to share our experience from a data sharing perspective. I'll quickly introduce Satchur first. We are a fairly young organization where our incorporation happened about 4.5 years back. What started as an initial journey of generating insights using satellite imaging today has moved to a level where we have integrated multiple data sets within our platform. And today, what was being offered as data is moved to insights. And our organization has moved from being a satellite imaging company to a deep tech company. Uh, from throughout our journey, in fact, today we are placed across 4 continents across the globe. Our founders are ex-ISRO employees, and most importantly, the vertical that I represent has been working within the banking ecosystem. And as you can see, 3 private sector banks, very premium private sector banks in India, are our investors. So I will just quickly talk about what we have been doing over a period of time, and then I'll give a deep dive into how things work at our end. But using remote sensing as the primary source of data, we have been able to solve a lot of problems across multiple sectors. But if I have to briefly summarize, we have been working with governments to solve the MSP problems or to identify area under cultivation. From subsidy perspective, we have been working with banks to provide risk mitigating data, insights which would help them to take care of their NPAs, and most importantly, the insurance segment, where we have been giving crop stage wise monitoring, weather data, and damage assessments. So what are the challenges in traditional data collection processes that we are trying to resolve? So typically what happens is there are multiple organizations who are working with small and marginal farmers in India. In fact, more than 70-80% of the farmers are small and marginal farmers. When it comes to financial institutions, each one of them follows a similar process to disburse a form of loan which has been offered to banks, which is to farmers, which is KCC. So typically you would look at collecting the loan document from the ground. You will try to validate the land record details. You will try to take credit information and things like that. The challenge with this information gap leads to a lot of TAT. I mean, if you look at one single part, which is land record verification itself, either you have digital portals to access this information, but parallelly you have to be on ground to access that similar data. Now, uh, typically the entire process takes approximately 30 days, which is a very high TAT. And obviously the cost, I mean, you are looking at small and marginal farmers, and the interest loans that you are trying to serve have a major subvention that is being supported by Government of India. So to service that kind of a cost becomes a challenge for these financial institutions. So if you look at it, basically it takes approximately 18 days for an individual bank officer to verify farmer details from a documentation perspective, right from login to verification purpose. While he's putting this parallelly into his ecosystem, it'll take approximately an additional 8 days for him to get all the verifications been done. Totally, it takes average anywhere between 25 to 30 days for this process to execute. Now, the benefit that we bring across our platform is we are able to generate something called as an instant report. So what would take 30 days can also be achieved in 4 hours. It is giving a lot of assistance to the branch processes, and it becomes a scalable solution. So where a single branch could cater to not more than 3-4 farmers using this tech, they have been able to increase it to 20-30 farmers, and hopefully we will see a point in time where major farmers have been bought into such kind of an ecosystem from a validation perspective. Now, how does this entire infrastructure work? So we have data does exist in isolation, not that we are the only data creators in this process, but primarily, if you look at it, there are 3 data sets that are available. We have something called as land data. So government or state governments hold this data in 2 parts. You have something called as the land records, typically a digital version of the information of the ownership details of a particular farmer. And then there is second sub data set, which is called as farm boundaries, which is typically held by the remote sensing department of a particular state government. Now, these two data sets are available with the state government, but in isolation. What SATSURE does over here is it has married these two data sets and laid over something called as the satellite imaging information, which is the crop data. Now, that's where the entire information, where is that farmland, who is the owner of that particular farmland, what he's been growing, is a singular data set that is available. Parallel to that data set, there are multiple informations that are being validated by these underwriters who are processing the loan, is where the market data comes into picture. Now, it may be an open market data or it may be a closed paid service, but we integrate those data sets also to create a singular report. So this is just a view of a report. Now, this is something where
Amit, also 4 more minutes. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure, no worries. So where what the whole intent is that can I score a farmer? If you look at from farmer's perspective, today for everything else, from a lending perspective, you have two data sets, validation data sets that are available for an underwriter. You have something called as a credit information and you have something called as a capacity information. But when it comes to agri, the capacity is always missing. So if a farmer who has is new to credit or a negative bureau score, then something that can be created parallel to the information is what a report SATSURE produces today. And this reduces a tag. So today an underwriter can log in into my platform, seek information by filling certain data, which is your state, district, tehsil, village data, and enter a unique identifier, which is a land record number for a farmer. And the report automatically pulls up, giving the information that I just mentioned from a remote sensing perspective or the data insights that are available. What are the recommendations from our side for the ecosystem? So yes, we have created a stack which is helping financial institutions, insurance organizations, and to some extent marketplace service providers to absorb data or put information from their side. But obviously, there is still granular data today which is missing. So for one of the few things that we do not have as an insight and where many organizations do carry is crop level pricing at a village level. While it's very easy to have MSP prices, but what price is a particular crop at a village trading? Many of us have this data. If it is made available, it further helps the ecosystem. Organizations have been working to create a lot of agri stack. So as I was mentioning, the revenue department has certain data. You have cadastral or remote sensing department having certain data. Bringing that into a singular format will be very informative. Last but not the least, while on the capacity side, we have a lot of information, but a unique identifier being made available to a particular farmer will not only help him at the initial stage at a credit perspective, but for states to give subsidies, for insurance companies to insure that particular farmer can be associated with a unique identifier. So these are a few recommendations that SATSURE has from its side. This is more or less who we are, what we have done, and the recommendation from our side. I hope I was being able to complete on time.
Thanks, Amit. Absolutely on time. And what had always amazed me about SATSURE's this idea is that earlier each bank used to do their own credit scoring, but this is a good segue for them because now using the same data, multiple banks can make lending decisions. So that's, I would say, an advanced level of data sharing or reducing the amount of data that needs to be collected. So thank you for that. You spoke about insurance, and now the next person I'll request is also from one of the pioneers in the smallholder finance insurance space. Benson, if you're online, I would request you to share your screen and present. And yeah, like always, my drill, I'll interrupt in 5 minutes. I know, I hope that's okay.
Thank you very much, Shri. Honored to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to present. I thank the coalition for the good work you're doing to ensure that data is helpful to the smallholder farmers. So I'm glad to be here. I'll start by introducing myself and Eka Africa. So my name is Benson Juguna. I work with Eka Africa in the digital department where we are the custodians of data in the organization. So we help the organization to run the business by supporting in technology and business process automations. So about Take Africa, Take Africa is a for-profit social enterprise, and we focus mainly on risk management solutions. So we design solutions for the smallholder farmers that are pegged mostly to climate risk. And for example, in Kenya and most of the African countries where we are licensed as an insurance subsidiary, mostly these countries where we are present in Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, in Nigeria. Also, we run projects working with local insurance companies, regulators, reinsurance companies in Uganda, Ghana, Malawi, Senegal, Eritrea, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, and Somalia. So we consider ourselves as a player in the middle of insurance, agriculture, veterinary services, actuarial science, data science, climate risks, and social science, as well as emerging technologies. So over the years, we've managed to reach 4 million farmers since 2014, and we had started as a project. In fact, a Syngenta Foundation project. You'll see one of our main shareholders is Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture. And from the project, we transitioned into an entity in 2014. So what do we do? So these are the sections we play in. So we play from product development to distribution. So in product development, we actually develop several unique agricultural products. Our target mostly is to ensure we have the right market price. We consider the right parameters that inform risk, and now using different methods which are quantitative, and we get a lot of support from the reinsurance. So it's actually products that can be reinsured. Then we support in distribution. So part of our partners who we work with as insurance companies, we also assist in their distribution, in marketing, and also structuring of products that they could be having as well. After that, we also do monitoring and claims assessment. So there's several types of monitoring. So there is parametric, where we use satellite data to check constantly occurrence of non-occurrence of risk. And also in some instances, we use enumerators and crop inspectors to veterinary officers to go onto the ground and monitor the different conditions so as to determine whether there's a claim or not. Then also we deal with reinsurance and claims payment. So in fact, we are licensed as a claims payer, as much as we're not an insurance company. Due to our novel technology, we're using technology like smart contracts. We're able to trigger payments automatically to the smallholder farmers, which, because one of the major challenges we realize in the industry is delayed claims payments. So that's how we are dealing with this. So main stakeholders that we deal with, apart from the smallholder farmer, the person who has direct contact with the smallholder farmers, we call them the village champions. These are leaders in the village. They're also farmers themselves, and we work with them to train farmers, to distribute insurance, and also we are targeting to make them an enterprise that can distribute other products to the farmer, and to also collect feedback from the farmers. We also work with donors. These are some of the few donors who help in the research, building of products, R&D, reinsurers for the products we design, micro lenders who lend to the smallholder farmers. We work with banks who want to de-risk the lending portfolio as they lend to smallholder farmers, input companies who wish to deliver good quality inputs to the smallholder farmers, and telecom providers, especially in a technology stack, to ensure we have smooth distribution. So we can distribute using feature phones where they don't need internet, and we can distribute and collect payments from mobile money to advanced collections. One of the key objectives
Benson,
of data.
4 more minutes. Just wanted to give you a time signature.
Great, thank you. No problem. So key objectives of why we use data. So three we use data for three major roles. The first one is the design. So once for insurance, sorry. So insurance has several things you do. So the design, the distribution, the monitoring at the end, and some of the data is remote sense data, farmer KYC details, location details, especially to monitor through satellite value chains and payments that have been made by the farmers. Another objective is credit assessing the credit risk for this farmer using agriculture data. So this is some of the things our panelists also do. So we're happy that this is an area of focus, but some of the data is mostly secondary data, what we've processed and what we've gathered over the years. And lastly is advisories. So there are two levels of advisories. Advisories to the smallholders farmers themselves, advising on the best practices and things to do, and advisories with our partners based on the different workings that they have with the farmers. So the different benefits that we have seen for the smallholders is bundled services. This is like embedded services where we can as somebody we work with can sell to the same farmer or distribute a service without actually doing the data collection. So there's rider products like offering additional medical insurance, personal accident to the same smallholder farmers. Also validation services, people want to verify if they're working with the right farmer, or KYC in order to lend, so we can offer these validation services. And also research. We support a lot of research and innovation, especially to improve insurance products and to improve policies in supporting the smallholder farmers in insurance and other services. So some of our recommendations, we are grateful for the coalition for the work they're doing, but as they pursue the different avenues, we recommend even different players. As we share this data, we would really want to explore technologies that you can share data without really revealing some of the content. So different scenarios. These are some of the technologies people are using, like ZK, zero knowledge proof, and also standardized data collection for interoperability. If there's a standard template we are all using, so we fit our data into this so that it can easily move across our players, and also farmer oracles. So oracles, if you get to collect as much information from the farmers, you can use this as a unique ID that can be used across board by the different players. Thank you very much. I hope I've saved a minute for the next speaker. Thank you.
Benson, you have, and thank you so much. So it's good to see that the primary use case was insurance, and after that, the same data has been used for credit scoring and also for extension services. And very many thanks for the recommendations at an ecosystem level, because that's what we need to think about. How do we mainstream data sharing? So thank you for that. And I'd like to call Vineet for his presentation. And Digital Green has been one of the pioneers in data sharing. They had developed something called FarmStack, and today I'm happy that we'll be learning a little more about Digital Green's FarmStack. Vineet, you're open to share your screen and present.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go in a presentation mode quickly. Just 1 second.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Happy to be here and listen to a great presentation earlier. I'll try to be quick. So just a brief history of Digital Green. We are a not-for-profit organization, globally present, especially working for smallholder farmers. Our mission is to create a world where farmers can use technology and data to build prosperous communities. In our 15 years of existence, we are grateful and proud to be backed by eminent funders like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UKFCDO, Walmart Foundation, to name a few. And through these support and backing, we have been able to strike partnership with government institutions across the world, like Ministry of Agriculture Ethiopia, Kalro in Kenya, and various state rural livelihood missions like Jivika, Bihar in particular. And our cornerstone in last 15 years has been our work with the government in strengthening the extension system through our video work, where the video is created by the community, by the farmers. And this work has led to a reach of more than 3.2 million farmers and has been proven through various studies to be 8 times more effective than traditional extension system, and has increased the farmer income and yield as well. Over the time, last, around 4 or 5 years back, we stumbled on this question as we have helped our government partners to collect information when the video is disseminated and also create the content library. We had the information about what are the videos that farmers watched, what is the practice that they have adopted, and so on. And the question was, what do we mean by this data-driven agriculture? What does it mean for the farmers, and what does it mean for the agriculture ecosystem in general? And we did various pilots, various initiatives, small, big, and through these initiatives, we stumbled on different insights, which led to our own model, which we call like a phygital model. And we realized that a lot of these use cases would necessarily involve some information that lies only with the farmer. There are technologies that can, like remote sensing or IoT, which can capture the data at the farm level, but but these technologies could be cross prohibitive, like IoT. And if you want to get the exact information, it's just the farmer who knows that information. And the information that has to be collected from the farmer is very difficult at multiple levels. How do you validate it? And we realized through our, again, various experiments that the main person whom the farmer trusts is the local community person who may be associated with various government extension system or through the farmer collective itself. This trust is the key factor, and the physical intermediary could go and collect this information about the farmer, also get the consent, and based on that consent and validated data can be shared across. And this information can be used by agriculture service provider, including government, who want to reach out to the farmers, and they can reach out directly to farmers. Uh, Farmers getting more of the service would increase the trust that is already existing and would be able to provide this information on an ongoing basis, on season. And the physical intermediaries would also gain in terms of their reputation, plus also their financial incentives that are there. So this was our flywheel that we have been attempting to create. The idea being an app which can be used by a farmer collective or a government institution extension worker, and a web system which can be used to basically explore and uh, get the information about the farms. One of the pilots that we did culminate this year, that ran for around 2 years in Tumkur district and adjoining district in AP Telangana with chili farmers. The farm level information by the farmer producer cooperatives is collected through an app. This information is exchanged through FarmStack to different tech partners or the service providers. Department of Horticulture used that to create a WhatsApp-based advisory and video-based extension. Agnext for doing the quality assaying. There was Kalgudi for creating market linkage, and Krishi Tantra for soil testing. There was also traceability and institutional buying that was also attempted in this particular pilot. This pilot led to creation of continuous enrichment of farmer profile. It could lead to around 16.4% of input saving for the farmers, around 1,250 rupees of higher income from sales, which is per ton kind of number. So for every farmer that was higher, and around 2,679 tons of chili was sold through FPOs, which was not possible. The technology or the product that made that possible. So the first part is having these physical registers. So most of the places this data lies in these physical registers, which is first digitized, and we provide this training to the local community persons who can digitize it this one-time activity can then be used to enable an app where which can be configured completely about what are the different services or products that are offered by the FPCs, and how they can generate the lead as to which farmer is interested in what kind of product. So essentially, this configurable app with a very intuitive interface, and what we did also realize that the entire problem of data entry lies with the kind of a form-based system. So instead of a form-based system, it has to be a touch-based and a flow kind of a system where also the physical intermediaries or the frontline workers can see their incentives. This is one of the short GIF of this app that has been used in this particular pilot. This data can then be used, and this is another use case of using FarmStack in Ethiopia, where the data that is obtained can be integrated. So again, a very simple, easy to use no-code tool where data can be joined based on the location, which is the Kebele or the village in this particular case, can be joined, and based on this, this information is used to provide advisory or any other service. You can scan or go to this particular link to see the micro website, which is the sample data. And what we have
2 more minutes. Sorry, Vinit. Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder. And what we have is a complete community stack. There is at the farmer organization level, where the frontline workers who are working with various formal or informal farmer groups, they make farmers aware about the services, and in that particular process, they help generate this data. This data that is then available through a multi-tenant architecture of FarmStack, where the ownership of the data is again with the farmer organization, and all this information is available to any ag service provider. With this two-way arrow is basically the ag service provider, which could be any organization who can consume and also build the solution and can push that solution through through FarmStack or outside. Completely interoperable system as a digital public good. It's available as an open source technology. This is one of the generic application that we have used, where we have combined the advisory call logs and the videos that is lying with the government institutes, and help that to create a WhatsApp based bot, which is then used by the by farmers directly on WhatsApp, and it basically combines the advisory and the research that is done already with the video work that Digital Green has already created. So summarizing the 3 main points that we feel are important is creating a phygital model. It has to be a physical plus digital with a farmer's first approach. If the farmers get the value, they create more trust with the service providers as well as the data collection offices. And then a customizable product where it can be customized for various value chains across different geographies. It has to be agnostic to the language or the crop or the value chain. And then a trusted data sharing. These are the key factors to enable ag ecosystem level data sharing. Thanks. I hope I have not overshot it.
No, Vinay, thank you so much. And 2, 3 things. It's an open source software, so it's open for people to try. Please check it out. And the objective of this session was to inspire people to think about data sharing. And thank you to all presenters. And I know it's been a long day for people who have joined us since the morning, but I would definitely say that you should join in for the closing remarks, which is a 10-minute remark from Dr. Parmesha, who leads World Bank's data-driven agriculture work. And I assure you that you will be energized again. So hoping to see you in the next Zoom link, and we can then close the session. So please join Dr. Parmesha for the closing remarks. And thank you to all the presenters. And I will introduce people to you if they have questions. And yes, thank you once again for joining us through the day.
Thank you.